Tonight, Saudi Arabia to host meeting in an attempt to broker peace in Russia's war. And minorities flee from Gurugram, India after intense communal violence. We cover stories about claims of discrimination and Islamophobia in Quebec detention centres. Bangladesh's calls to Canada to return killers of its founding leader. And after 18 years of marriage and 3 political campaigns, the Trudeaus decide to part ways. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I am Catherine Bullock. Officials from numerous countries are gearing up for a 2-day meeting in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia this weekend to kickstart Ukraine peace talks. The gathering follows a previous meeting in Copenhagen, where representatives from around the world, including the Global South, attempted to develop a peace plan. The guest list includes Brazil, India, Turkey, Japan, European countries, and the United States. It is unclear if China will attend. Its absence in the previous meetings was regretted by many participants. Riyadh's decision to host the talks is significant, and it follows Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to Jeddah during the G7 summit in May. Zelensky addressed the Arab League and met Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Saudi Arabia's support for Ukraine's 10-point peace plan has been essential for Kyiv. Saudi Arabia has been diplomatically navigating the situation, seeking to repatriate Ukrainian children from Russia while maintaining communication with Moscow. They also maintain strong ties with the US, as evident from a recent meeting between National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and the Crown Prince. The main goal of this weekend's meeting is to reach a joint statement, which could not be done in the previous meeting. Ukraine sees this meeting as a precursor to a long-anticipated peace summit, with possibilities meeting during the UN General Assembly or the G20 later in the year. People from the minority community in India's Gurugram are fleeing to safer parts. Gurugram is near India's capital, New Delhi. A predominantly Hindu area, it is known for its high-rise buildings. It has a large number of migrant workers who have come in search of work from different parts of the country. A mosque there was torched last week. Its imam was killed by an extremist Hindu mob. Most of the city's slum dwellers fear more attacks by local right-wing Hindu groups. Violence in areas close by, such as the northern Indian state of Haryana, continues. 6 persons were killed in the violence, which started on Monday, as people tried to stop a procession by a right-wing Hindu organization. Those killed include 2 police personnel, a Muslim cleric, and 3 men associated with the right-wing Bajrang Dal. The incident took place in the Muslim-majority Nuh district, where several cars were torched and stones were thrown at the police. The state government sought additional forces to bring the situation under control. 2 incidences of fire were reported today at 2 mosques in the district. Police say they are still investigating the matter. The government says internet services will remain suspended in the areas until August 5th in order to maintain law and order. Critics often accuse the state of turning a blind eye to the attacks on Muslims and doing little to stop the violence. Another disturbing attack against Islam's holy book has been organized today in Stockholm, Sweden. 47-year-old Iranian-born Bayrami Marjan burned a copy of the Quran under police protection on a beach in the Bromma district. He says all religions should be destroyed, as he burned the holy book in a barbecue. Recent months have seen repeated acts of Quran burning, desecration, or attempts to do so by Islamophobic figures or groups, especially in Northern European and Nordic countries. Meta, the parent country of social media platforms Facebook and Instagram, has officially begun to discontinue news availability in Canada. The move was expected in response to the passing of the Online News Act, or Bill C-18, by the Canadian government in June. The bill mandates that tech companies, including Google and Meta, compensate media outlets for sharing or reusing news content on their platforms. Meta, in response, had already been blocking news content for certain Canadians. Now, this restriction is being expanded nationwide. Canadians will no longer have access to view or post news content on Facebook or Instagram. Domestic and international news outlets will also have their content blocked on those platforms. Meta's head of public policy in Canada confirmed in a statement that Meta has begun the process of ending news availability permanently in Canada. She says that Meta hopes the Canadian government will recognise the value it provides to the news industry. The process of implementing these changes across Meta's platforms is anticipated to take a few weeks. The Online Bills Act, which was passed in June last year, aims to support news outlets financially, as advertising has largely shifted to digital platforms, significantly affecting revenues. For more on claims of Islamophobia in Quebec detention centres, stay tuned. A Quebec mother is accusing Quebec City and Rimouski detention centres of discrimination and Islamophobia against her adult son during his detention. Her son was detained for 5 months, from February to July this year. The mother, who wishes to remain anonymous, claims her son's arrest was unjustified after being taken to the emergency room for psychological treatment. Upon his release from the hospital, he was apprehended by Quebec City police following a 911 call about his erratic behaviour. The Red Coalition, an anti-racism advocacy group, is supporting the mother's claims of systemic racism in Quebec's detention centres. They assert that her Muslim son faced insults and mistreatment, including disruptions to his prayers, throwing coffee at him, and refusing to accommodate his religious practices during Ramadan. The young man was allegedly isolated for over 15 consecutive days, receiving inadequate mental health care and being encouraged to plead guilty during a hearing. The mother also raises concerns about her son being stabbed by another inmate in March. She is calling for an independent inquiry into the incident. The Red Coalition is urging the Human Rights and Youth Rights Commission to investigate racism and discrimination in Quebec's detention centres, following a similar request made after the death of a Black inmate in January this year. The Quebec Public Security Ministry has not commented. The Commission says they do not comment on specific cases, but encourage individuals who feel discriminated against to file complaints. DACA is calling out the US and Canada for not sending back 2 self-proclaimed killers of Bangladesh's founding leader. The Bengali Foreign Ministry spokesperson says the killers of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman cannot be returned due to the lack of political will of the Western countries. She says the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is working on this matter. Bangabandhu, along with most of his family members, was assassinated in August of 1975 by a group of army personnel. 5 of the 12 convicts in the assassination were executed in 2010, a year after the Awami League-led alliance retook power. Among the surviving convicts, 2 are in the US and Canada, while the whereabouts of others are still unknown. There is an Interpol warrant for their arrest. Noor Chaudhry was found guilty of Bangabandhu's assassination by a Bangladesh court. Chaudhry has been living in Canada for nearly 3 decades. Canadian law restricts sending back convicts, primarily to countries where death sentences are carried out. Fugitive M.A. Rashid Chaudhry, who, like Noor Chaudhry, was sentenced to death by the country's court, has been living in the US since 1996 with his family. In a surprise statement, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that he and his wife Sophie are separating after 18 years of marriage. One of the world's most famous political couples posted a similar update on their Instagram account. Trudeau, who is 51, married 48-year-old Sophie Gregoire Trudeau in 2005. They have 3 children together. The split is apparently amicable. A statement from Trudeau's office says they, quote, remain a close family, and Sophie and the Prime Minister are focusing on raising their children in a safe and collaborative environment. It says both parents will be a constant presence in their children's lives, and Canadians can expect to often see the family together. Observers are pointing out that Trudeau is following in the footsteps of his late father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who was the first Prime Minister to divorce while in office. He divorced Justin's mother, Margaret, in 1984. But in younger Trudeau's case, it is not just the dissolution of a marriage, but of a political partnership. Sophie Trudeau was heavily involved as her husband's advisor through 3 successful federal elections, and she had a hand in every major decision. Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Sound Vision, which is a not-for-profit organization. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad.